You know what's worse than losing someone you love? Finding out your own family can't wait to celebrate what they think they're getting from it. My sister literally laughed in my face at our mother's funeral. She actually laughed, said I was getting the leftovers while she got the real prize. But when that lawyer turned to the last page of the will, her face went white. And honestly, that moment changed everything I thought I knew about my family. I'm Margaret, and this is the story of how my mother's final words exposed 20 years of lies, manipulation, and a sister who thought she had it all figured out. So here's the thing about my family. We weren't rich, but we weren't struggling either. My mum worked as a nurse for 35 years. My dad passed when I was 12. And my sister Claire and I grew up in a normal three-bedroom house in Pennsylvania. Nothing fancy, nothing terrible, just normal. But Claire and I were never really close. Not in that way where sisters finish each other's sentences or share clothes or have inside jokes. We were just two people who happened to share parents. She was 4 years older than me, and from the moment I can remember, she made sure I knew I was the accident baby, the one mom and dad didn't plan for, the one who messed up their perfect little family of three. Claire used to tell me stories about how great life was before I came along, how mom and dad took her to Disney World when she was 6, just the three of them, how they'd go out to dinner every Friday night and she'd get to order whatever she wanted, how dad would carry her on his shoulders through the park and she felt like a princess. Then I was born, and suddenly there wasn't enough money for trips. No more fancy dinners. Dad was tired all the time from working extra shifts to support 4 people instead of 3. She blamed me for all of it, like I'd chosen to be born and ruin her perfect life. When Dad died, things got worse. Claire was 16, I was 12, and somehow in her head, she decided that Mum's attention was a limited resource and I was taking her share. Every time Mum came to my soccer games, Claire would sulk for days. Every time Mum helped me with homework, Claire would make some comment about how I was babied. It was exhausting. I remember this one time when I was 14. I'd made the honor roll, and Mum wanted to take me out for ice cream to celebrate. Just a simple trip to the local ice cream shop, nothing big. Claire threw such a fit that Mom ended up cancelling. Said we'd all go together another time, but that never happened. Claire made sure I knew it was my fault for always needing to be the centre of attention. The thing is, I didn't need to be the centre of anything. I just wanted a normal relationship with my mum. But Claire turned everything into a competition that I didn't even know I was part of. But I dealt with it. You know how it is. You just accept that some people in your family are difficult and you work around it. I focused on school, got a scholarship to a state university, became a teacher. Nothing glamorous, but I loved it. I loved working with kids, seeing them learn, being part of their growth. It felt meaningful. I taught 5th grade at a public school about 40 minutes from where Mum lived. The pay wasn't great, but I wasn't in it for the money. I genuinely loved those kids. Loved watching them figure out long division or finally understand a book they'd been struggling with. Some of them came from rough homes, and I tried to be the stable presence they needed. The teacher who believed in them, even when nobody else did. Claire went a different route. She dropped out of community college after a year, moved in with this guy named Derek, and for the next 15 years, she bounced between retail jobs and get-rich-quick schemes. She sold essential oils, then makeup, then those weird leggings with patterns on them. None of it ever worked out. And every single time, something failed. She'd show up at Mum's house with this victim mentality, talking about how the world was against her, how nothing ever went her way. I remember when she was selling the essential oils. She tried to recruit Mum into her downline, talking about how they could both make thousands of dollars a month working from home. Mum politely declined, but Claire kept pushing. Eventually, Mum bought like $300 worth of oils just to support her. Those bottles sat in Mum's bathroom cabinet for years, barely used. Lavender, peppermint, something called Thieves' Blend, all of them gathering dust while Claire moved on to the next thing. Then it was the makeup. Claire hosted these parties at Mum's house because her apartment was too small. She'd invite Mum's friends from church and the neighborhood, pressure them into buying overpriced lipstick and eyeshadow. I went to one of those parties once. It was uncomfortable watching Claire put on this fake, energetic personality, acting like she was some beauty expert when I knew she'd only been selling the stuff for 3 weeks. Mum's friend Linda bought a starter kit just to be nice. $80 for products she didn't need and would never use. That's how most of those parties went. People buying things out of pity or obligation, not because they actually wanted them. And Mum, being Mum, would help her, pay her electric bill, buy her groceries, slip her money for rent. I never said anything because it wasn't my business, but I could see it was draining Mum, not just financially, but emotionally too. There was this one Thanksgiving when Claire showed up 2 hours late with Derek. Mum had cooked this whole meal, turkey and stuffing and 3 different pies. We'd been waiting to eat because Claire said she'd be there at noon. She finally rolled in at 2 in the afternoon, didn't apologize, just sat down and started complaining about traffic. Then, halfway through the meal, she asked Mom if she could borrow $1,500 for first month's rent on a new apartment at Thanksgiving dinner, in front of Derek and me. Mum said she'd think about it, and I could see how tired she looked, how worn down. I visited Mum every single Sunday for 20 years. We'd have coffee. I'd help her around the house. We'd watch those home renovation shows she loved. Claire would pop by maybe once a month, usually when she needed something. But somehow, in Claire's version of reality, she was the devoted daughter, and I was the distant one who moved away and forgot about family. I moved exactly 40 minutes away. 40 minutes. I could be at Mum's house in less time than it takes to watch a TV show. Our Sunday routine was simple, but it meant everything to me. I'd get to Mum's house around 9 in the morning. She'd have the coffee already brewing, the good stuff she got from this local roaster downtown. We'd sit at her kitchen table, the same table we'd eaten at my whole life, and just talk. Sometimes about nothing important. The weather, what was happening in the neighborhood, some story about a kid in my class. Other times we'd talk about deeper things. How much she missed Dad, what it was like watching her daughters grow into completely different people, her regrets and her pride. After coffee, I'd help with whatever needed doing. Mow the lawn, fix a leaky faucet, clean the gutters, reorganize the garage. Mum tried to keep up with everything herself, but the house was getting older, and so was she. I didn't mind. It gave us time together, and it meant she could stay in the house she loved instead of worrying about maintenance. Then we'd have lunch, usually something simple like sandwiches or leftover soup, and we'd watch her shows. Those house-flipping programs where people buy wrecked houses and turn them into dream homes. Mum loved those. She'd make comments about the design choices, critique the color schemes, get excited when they revealed the finished product. It was our thing. Claire knew about our Sunday routine. She'd make comments sometimes about how I was sucking up to Mom, trying to be the favourite. Like spending time with your mother was some kind of manipulative strategy instead of just wanting to be around someone you loved. 3 years ago, Mum got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave her maybe a year, probably less. And that year was brutal. The chemo made her so sick, she couldn't keep food down. She lost her hair, lost so much weight, her clothes just hung off her. But she fought. God, she fought so hard. I'll never forget the day she told me. It was a Sunday, our regular coffee morning. But when I got there, she wasn't in the kitchen. I found her in the living room, sitting in Dad's old armchair, just staring out the window. I knew something was wrong immediately. She told me straight. No sugarcoating. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, already spread to her liver. The oncologist said with aggressive treatment, she might have 12 to 18 months. Without it, maybe 6. I asked her what she wanted to do, and she said she wanted to fight. So that's what we did. I was there for every single appointment, every chemo session, every scan, every meeting with doctors. I moved back into her house to take care of her full time, took a leave of absence from teaching. Because that's what you do. That's what family does. The school was amazing about it. My principal told me to take all the time I needed, that my job would be waiting when I was ready to come back. The other teachers pitched in and covered my class. Parents sent cards and meals. It reminded me that there are good people in the world, people who understand what matters. Moving back into my childhood home was strange. My old room was exactly how I'd left it when I moved out at 18. Same blue walls, same bookshelf full of young adult novels, same desk where I'd done homework for years. But now I was there as a caregiver, not a kid. The first few months weren't too bad. Mum was tired from the chemo, but still functional. We'd still have our coffee in the mornings, though sometimes she couldn't drink more than a few sips. We'd watch her shows, though she'd often fall asleep halfway through. I learned how to manage her medications, when to give her the anti-nausea pills, how to help when she was too weak to walk to the bathroom. Claire visited twice during those 12 months. Twice. Once at the beginning when Mum first got diagnosed, and once about 6 months in when she needed to borrow $2,000 for car repairs. Both times she stayed maybe an hour, made everything about her stress and her struggles, then left. That first visit was a week after the diagnosis. Claire showed up crying, hugging Mum, and saying she couldn't believe this was happening. She stayed for maybe 45 minutes, most of which she spent on her phone. Then she said she had to go because Derek was waiting in the car. Didn't offer to help, didn't ask what Mum needed, just left. The second visit was worse. Mum was having a really bad day. She'd been throwing up all morning, could barely keep her eyes open. I was exhausted from being up with her most of the night. And Claire breezed in, talking about how her car broke down and she needed $2,000 to fix it. Didn't ask how Mum was feeling, didn't notice that she looked like death, just launched into her problem. Mum, even sick as she was, said yes. Wrote her a check right there. I wanted to scream. After Claire left, I asked Mum why she kept giving her money. Mum just sighed and said it was easier than dealing with the guilt trip if she said no. That broke my heart. My mother was dying, and she still felt responsible for fixing Claire's problems. But here's the kicker. When Mum died last April, Claire showed up at the hospital sobbing like she'd lost her best friend, posting on Facebook about how close they were, how Mum was her whole world, sharing old photos with captions about unbreakable bonds. It made me sick. Mum died on a Tuesday morning at 6:15. I was holding her hand. She'd been unconscious for 2 days, just breathing these shallow breaths that got further and further apart. The hospice nurse said it would be soon, maybe hours. I called Claire and left a voicemail telling her to come now if she wanted to say goodbye. She never called back, so I sat there alone with Mom, holding her hand, telling her it was okay to let go, that I'd be fine, that she didn't need to fight anymore. And at 6:15, she took one last breath and was gone. I called Claire again after. She picked up this time. I told her Mum had passed. She was quiet for a second, then started crying. Said she'd be there in an hour. She showed up 3 hours later with a coffee from Starbucks, like she'd stopped for a latte on the way to see her dead mother. The funeral was on a Thursday. Small service, maybe 50 people. Mum had been specific about what she wanted. Simple casket, no viewing, just a memorial service at the church she attended for 40 years. I organised everything. Chose the flowers, picked the music, wrote the obituary. Claire showed up 20 minutes late wearing sunglasses indoors and crying loud enough for everyone to hear. I'd picked out white roses because those were Mum's favourite. Chose 3 hymns she used to sing around the house. Asked Pastor Jim to keep the service short because Mum hated when things dragged on. I wrote an obituary that actually captured who she was, not just the dates and survivors, but the person. A woman who loved home renovation shows and bad romance novels and bird watching. Who made the best apple pie in Pennsylvania and always left the TV on for background noise. Who worked 35 years as a nurse and never complained about the long shifts or difficult patients. Claire didn't help with any of it. I'd text her asking for input, and she'd either not respond or just say whatever you think is fine. Then at the service, she acted like she'd done everything. Accepted condolences like she was the grieving daughter who'd been by Mum's side the whole time. After the service, people came back to Mum's house. That was when Claire cornered me in the kitchen. I was making coffee for guests, and she came up beside me with this smirk on her face. "So, when are we meeting with the lawyer?" she asked. I just stared at her. Our mother had been in the ground for less than 3 hours. "The reading is tomorrow," I said. 10 in the morning. "Perfect." She grabbed a cookie off the tray I'd set out. "I already talked to a realtor about listing the house. She thinks we can get at least 400,000 for it. Maybe more if we stage it right. So that's 200,000 each, plus whatever else Mom had saved up." My hands were shaking. "You called a realtor?" "Well, yeah. We need to move fast on these things. The market's good right now." She ate the cookie in 2 bites. "I'm thinking I'll use my half to finally start that business I've been planning. Derek thinks we could open a gym, one of those boutique places. We've got the whole thing figured out." I turned back to the coffee maker because I didn't trust myself to look at her. "You know she left everything split evenly, right?" Claire continued. "That's what Mom always said. Everything split down the middle. Fair and square." "She never said that to me." "Well, she said it to me like 100 times. She was always about fairness, you know that." "So yeah, I'm expecting half of everything. The house, the savings, that life insurance policy from her nursing job. All of it." She went on and on about her plans. The gym would be in this trendy neighborhood about 20 minutes away. They'd offer personal training and yoga classes and sell protein shakes. Derek had experience working at a gym in his 20s, so he knew the business. They already had a name picked out and everything. Momentum Fitness. She even showed me a logo she'd designed on some free website. All of this while our mother's friends and family were in the next room eating sandwiches and sharing memories. A few of Mum's friends walked into the kitchen then, and Claire immediately switched into grieving daughter mode, dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, accepted their condolences with this tragic smile. It was a performance. Everything with Claire was always a performance. That night, I stayed at the house by myself. Couldn't bring myself to sleep in Mum's room, so I slept in my old bedroom with the same blue walls I'd picked out when I was 14. And I just cried. Not even about the money or the house, but about how unfair it was that Claire got to rewrite history, that she got to pretend she'd been there when she hadn't, that she got to play the devoted daughter when I was the one who held Mum's hand through every awful moment of that last year. I cried for the nights I sat up with Mum while she was in pain, adjusting her pillows every 20 minutes because she couldn't get comfortable. For the times I had to help her to the bathroom because she was too weak to walk alone. For the conversations we had at 3 in the morning when she was scared of dying and I was scared of losing her. For the days after chemo, when she couldn't even lift her head off the pillow, and I'd sit there reading to her from her favourite books. Claire didn't see any of that. Didn't know what it was like to watch someone you love waste away slowly. Didn't understand the weight of being the only person there. The lawyer's office was downtown, one of those old buildings with creaky floors and frosted glass doors. His name was Mr. Peterson, and he'd been Mum's lawyer for probably 20 years. I got there 15 minutes early. Claire showed up exactly on time with Derek, which surprised me because I didn't know he was coming. "Derek's here for moral support," Claire announced, like anyone asked. "This is going to be emotional." Derek was this tall guy with a beard and a baseball cap he never took off. He worked part-time at a sporting goods store and spent most of his free time playing video games. I'd met him maybe 5 times in the 15 years he and Claire had been together. He never had much to say, just sort of existed in the background of Claire's drama. Mr. Peterson was this older guy with white hair and glasses that sat on the tip of his nose. He gestured for us to sit down, then pulled out a folder from his desk drawer. "First, let me express my condolences," he said. "Your mother was a lovely woman. I had the pleasure of knowing her for many years." "Thank you," I said. Claire nodded, already pulling out tissues. "Now, as you know, we're here to read the last will and testament of Patricia Ann Morrison. The will was last updated 6 months ago, and I can confirm that it is legally binding and was executed while your mother was of sound mind and body. 6 months ago. That would have been November, right in the middle of her treatment. I remembered that day. Mum had asked me to drive her to Mr. Peterson's office, said she needed to update some paperwork. I'd sat in the waiting room while they talked. She came out 45 minutes later, looking tired but relieved. I asked if everything was okay, and she just patted my hand and said everything was exactly as it should be. Mr. Peterson opened the folder and pulled out several pages. I'll skip the standard legal language and get to the relevant portions. Patricia's estate consists primarily of her home, valued at approximately $420,000, a savings account with a balance of $68,000, a checking account with $12,000, a life insurance policy worth $100,000, and various personal possessions. Claire was practically vibrating in her seat. I could see her doing math in her head. That was over $600,000, split two ways. That was over $300,000 each. Derek leaned over and whispered something to her. She nodded, smiling. They'd probably already spent that money in their heads. Down payment on the gym, new car, maybe a vacation. All planned out before they even knew what Mom actually wanted. The will begins with personal items, Mr. Peterson continued. To my daughter Claire Elizabeth Morrison, I leave my diamond engagement ring, my mother's pearl necklace, and the china set that has been in our family for 3 generations. Claire smiled. Those items were worth maybe $10,000 total. The ring, especially. It was beautiful. A full carat in an antique setting that Dad had saved for months to buy. The pearl necklace had belonged to my grandmother, passed down through the female line. The china was this delicate pattern with tiny blue flowers that Mom only used on special occasions. To my daughter Margaret Rose Morrison, I leave my collection of books, my recipe box, and my sewing machine. I felt my face get hot. The books were probably worth nothing. The recipe box was sentimental, but not valuable. And the sewing machine was from the 80s. Claire shot me this look, this victorious little smirk that said, "See." Even Mum knew who mattered more. I could see what she was thinking. That Mum had given her the valuable stuff and me the junk. That even in death, Mum had chosen Claire as the important daughter. Now, regarding the primary assets, Mr. Peterson said, and Claire sat up straighter. The house, the savings accounts, the checking account, and the life insurance policy. He paused, looking at both of us over his glasses. The room felt too warm suddenly. I could hear the clock on the wall ticking, each second stretching out forever. Patricia left the entire estate to Margaret Rose Morrison. The room went completely silent, like someone had hit a mute button on the world. What? Claire's voice came out as barely a whisper. The house, all bank accounts, and the life insurance policy are to be transferred entirely to Margaret. Mr. Peterson repeated. There is no division of assets. Margaret is the sole beneficiary. That's not right. Claire stood up so fast, her chair almost fell over. That's not what Mum said. She told me everything was split evenly. She promised me. I assure you this will is valid and current, Mr. Peterson said calmly. Your mother was very clear about her wishes. No, no way. This is wrong. Margaret must have manipulated her. Mum was sick. She wasn't thinking clearly. I sat there frozen, unable to process what I was hearing. The entire estate, all of it. Mum had left me everything. Mrs. Morrison updated this will with me present, along with 2 witnesses, and I can personally attest that she was completely lucid and firm in her decisions. She knew exactly what she was doing. I couldn't breathe. I literally forgot how to breathe for a second. This couldn't be real. There's more, Mr. Peterson said. He flipped to another page. Your mother included a letter of explanation. She requested that I read it after announcing the distribution of assets. I don't want to hear it, Claire said. This is garbage. I'm going to contest this. You can't just cut someone out of a will for no reason. You weren't cut out, Mr. Peterson said. You received personal items, And your mother had very specific reasons for her decisions, which she documented. I'm going to read the letter now. He cleared his throat and began reading in Mum's words. And I swear, it was like she was right there in the room with us. To my daughters Claire and Margaret, if you're hearing this, I'm gone, and I can only hope that I manage to die with some dignity intact. I've thought long and hard about what to do with the life I built, the things I accumulated, and I've made my decision with a clear mind and a heavy heart. Claire was crying now, but they were angry tears, furious tears. Derek put his hand on her shoulder, but she shrugged it off. Claire, I have loved you since the moment you were born. You were my first baby, my little girl, and nothing will ever change that. But love doesn't mean I'm blind. For most of your adult life, you've treated me like a bank, like someone who exists to solve your problems and fund your mistakes. Every visit came with a request for money. Every phone call was about what you needed, and I gave it to you because I'm your mother, and I wanted to help. But it needs to stop, and since I won't be here to say no anymore, I'm saying it now in the only way I can. This is bullshit, Claire muttered, but Derek put his hand on her arm again. The personal items I left you have significant monetary and sentimental value. The engagement ring alone is worth nearly $10,000. I'm giving you these things because I want you to have something of mine, something you can hold and remember me by. But I'm not giving you money to waste on another business scheme or to enable Derek's refusal to hold down a steady job. Derek's face went red, but he didn't say anything. His hand dropped from Claire's arm and he stared at the floor. Margaret, my sweet Margaret, you have been my rock. When your father died, you were just a child, but you grew up faster than any kid should have to. You helped around the house. You studied hard. You never asked me for anything you didn't absolutely need. You became a teacher because you wanted to make a difference, not because it would make you rich. And when I got sick, when I needed someone most, you were there. Every single day, you put your life on hold to take care of me. You changed my bandages. You held my hair when I was sick from chemo. You sat with me through the long, scary nights when I thought I couldn't go on. I was crying now, too. I couldn't help it. Tears were running down my face, and I didn't even try to wipe them away. So I'm leaving you the house because you turned it back into a home during my final year. I'm leaving you the money because you sacrificed your income to care for me. I'm leaving you the life insurance because I want you to have security, to travel, to live the life you put on pause for me. You earned this not through manipulation, but through love. Real love. The kind that shows up even when it's hard. Mr. Peterson paused, then continued. Claire, I hope you can understand someday. I hope you can see that this isn't punishment. It's a boundary. I'm not here to fix your life anymore. It's time for you to fix it yourself. And Margaret, I hope you can forgive me for putting this burden on you. I know Claire will be angry, and I know that anger will be directed at you. But please know that this decision is mine alone. You did nothing wrong. You did everything right. I love you both. But love isn't always equal, and it isn't always fair. Sometimes the person who needs less gets more, because they've proven they'll use it wisely. Mum? The office was dead quiet when Mr. Peterson finished reading. I was staring at my hands, tears dripping onto my jeans. Claire was standing frozen, her face this terrible combination of shock and rage. That's it, she finally said. That's her reason. Because I didn't play perfect caregiver like Margaret? Your mother's reasoning is clearly stated. Mr. Peterson said, and the will is legally sound. You were there twice in 12 months, I said quietly. I hadn't planned to say anything, but it just came out. Twice. And one of those times was to borrow money. Oh, don't you dare! Claire spun toward me. Don't you dare act like you're some kind of saint. You probably poisoned her against me. Probably spent all that time whispering in her ear about what a terrible daughter I am. I never said a word about you, I said. I didn't have to. She saw it herself. You know what? Fine. Take it all. Take the house. Take the money. I don't care. But don't expect me to pretend we're family anymore. Don't call me. Don't come to my house. Don't act like we're sisters. You're dead to me. She grabbed her purse and stormed out, Derek trailing behind her like a lost puppy. The door slammed so hard the frosted glass rattled. Mr. Peterson sighed. I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's okay, I said, even though it wasn't. Even though my hands were shaking and I felt like I might throw up. Your mother anticipated this reaction, he said gently. She asked me to give you this if Claire became hostile. He handed me a sealed envelope with my name written on it in Mom's handwriting. I tucked it into my purse, unable to open it right there. We spent the next hour going over paperwork, what needed to be signed, what documents I'd need to provide, timelines for transferring assets. Mr. Peterson was patient and kind, explaining everything in simple terms. I nodded and signed where he told me to, but my brain was still stuck on what had just happened. The next 2 weeks were a blur of paperwork, transferring the house deed, closing Mum's accounts and opening new ones in my name, dealing with the life insurance company. Mr. Peterson handled most of it, but I still had to sign what felt like 1,000 documents. Every signature felt surreal. Margaret Rose Morrison, sole beneficiary. Margaret Rose. Morrison, property owner. Margaret Rose Morrison, recipient of life insurance proceeds. It didn't feel real. Any of it. Claire didn't call, didn't text. I saw on Facebook that she'd posted a long rant about toxic family members and how blood doesn't mean anything if people betray you. Half our relatives commented with supportive messages for her. Nobody reached out to ask my side of things. It was easier to believe Claire's version, I guess. The poor daughter who got screwed over by her manipulative sister. Our cousin Jessica called me a snake in the comments. Said I should be ashamed of myself for taking advantage of a sick woman. Aunt Marie shared Claire's post with a caption about how sad it is when greed destroys families. Uncle Tom sent me a message calling me selfish and saying Mum would be disappointed in me. None of them had visited Mom during her illness. Not once. But suddenly, they all had opinions about what she would have wanted. I finally opened Mum's letter when I was alone in the house one night, sitting at the kitchen table where we'd had coffee every Sunday. My dearest Margaret, it started. If you're reading this, you've just sat through what was probably a very difficult meeting. I'm sorry for that. I know Claire, and I know she didn't take this well. She's my daughter, and I love her, but I'm not naive about who she is. She's always needed someone to blame for her problems, and now that I'm gone, that someone is you. I wish I could protect you from that, but I can't. All I can do is tell you the truth. You deserve everything I'm leaving you and more. You gave up a year of your life for me. You held my hand through the worst pain I've ever experienced. You made me laugh when I wanted to die. You reminded me why life was worth fighting for. Claire sent me a total of 4 text messages in 12 months. 4. 3 of them were asking for money. The fourth was a Facebook meme about strong mothers. So please, please don't feel guilty. Use this money to do something amazing. Travel to Italy like you always wanted. Buy a house with a garden. Adopt a dog. Whatever makes you happy. You've spent so much of your life taking care of other people. It's time to take care of yourself. I will love you forever. Mom. I cried for probably an hour straight after reading that. Then I folded the letter carefully and put it in a box with other things I was keeping. Mum's recipe box, some photos, the quilt she'd made when I was born. Over the next few months, I did what needed to be done. I put the house on the market and it sold in 3 weeks for $435,000. Added to the savings and life insurance, I had over $600,000. More money than I'd ever imagined having. The realtor said the house sold so fast because I'd kept it in such good condition. All those Sundays fixing things, keeping up with maintenance, it had paid off. The couple who bought it had a young daughter, and they loved that it was in a good school district. I felt good knowing a family would live there, make new memories in the rooms where I'd grown up. Claire tried to contest the will, just like she'd threatened. She hired some lawyer who took her money and then told her she had no case. Mum had been evaluated by doctors, the will was properly witnessed, and there was no evidence of manipulation or coercion. The case was dismissed before it even really started, and Claire was out $5,000 in legal fees she definitely didn't have. I heard through a cousin that she and Derek broke up. Apparently, he'd been expecting to get a chunk of the inheritance money, and when that didn't happen, he decided Claire wasn't worth the effort. She moved into some tiny apartment and got a job at Target. I felt bad about that for maybe a day, then remembered the 24 times she'd borrowed money from Mum and never paid it back. The total came to something like $38,000 over the years. I found records of it when I was cleaning out Mum's house. Check stubs, bank transfers, all dated and noted. Rent money, car repairs, utility bills, groceries. $38,000 that Mum gave Claire and never saw again. As for me, I did what Mum wanted. I took some time off, travelled to Italy for 3 weeks, walked the streets of Rome, ate pasta in small trattorias in Tuscany, stood in front of the Sistine Chapel and cried because I wished Mum could have seen it. Italy was everything I'd imagined, and more. I stayed in small hotels, the kind where the owners remembered your name and asked about your day. I ate cacio e pepe in Rome that was so good, I went back to the same restaurant 3 times. I spent a day in Florence just sitting in front of the Duomo, sketching it in a notebook I'd bought from a street vendor. In Tuscany, I rented a car and drove through the countryside, rolled down the windows and let the warm air blow through, stopped at vineyards and tasted wine, bought olive oil from a farm stand, had long conversations with locals who barely spoke English, but still managed to make me feel welcome. One night, in a small town whose name I can't even remember, I sat at an outdoor cafe and just watched people. Families having dinner together, couples holding hands, kids running around the piazza. And I felt at peace, really, truly at peace, for the first time since Mom died. I came home and bought a small house with a huge backyard, adopted a golden retriever puppy named Biscuit, went back to teaching in the fall. The house I bought was perfect. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, nothing fancy but mine. The backyard had that huge oak tree and enough space for Biscuit to run around. I set up a garden in the spring, planted tomatoes and peppers and herbs, spent my weekends fixing it up exactly how I wanted it. My principal welcomed me back with open arms. The kids in my new class were amazing, curious and funny and full of energy. It felt good to be back in the classroom, back to doing work that mattered. But here's the thing, nobody tells you about inheritance. It doesn't just come with money, it comes with guilt. Even when you know you deserve it, even when you did everything right, there's this voice in your head asking if you could have done something differently. If maybe you should share it anyway, just to keep the peace. I thought about reaching out to Claire probably 100 times. Thought about offering her some money, trying to rebuild the relationship. But every time I got close to doing it, I'd remember something Mum wrote about boundaries, about enabling, about how sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone figure out their own life. I'd pick up my phone to text her, then put it back down, draft an email, then delete it, drive halfway to her apartment, then turn around. Because what would I even say? Sorry, Mum thought I deserved her estate more than you. Here's some money to make you hate me less. About 8 months after Mum died, I got a message from Claire. Not an apology, not an attempt at reconciliation, just a single sentence. I hope you're happy with yourself. I stared at that message for a long time before I responded. I'm not happy Mum died. I'm not happy our family fell apart. But I'm at peace with her decision, and I'm at peace with mine. I hope someday you can be too. She never responded. That was 6 months ago now, and I haven't heard from her since. I saw on social media that she's still working at Target, still living in that small apartment, still posting vague statuses about fake people and real struggles. Part of me wonders if she ever thinks about Mom without anger, if she ever looks at that engagement ring and remembers how much Dad loved her, if she ever regrets not showing up. Sometimes I wonder if I should have fought harder to maintain the relationship, if I should have swallowed my pride and my hurt and just given her half the money to avoid all the drama. But then I think about Mum's letter, about how she spent years enabling Claire, and how her final act was to say enough. The truth is that inheritance wasn't really about money. It was about Mom finally acknowledging what she saw, about her putting into action what she couldn't bring herself to say while she was alive. That love and presence matter, that showing up matters, that you can't coast through life expecting other people to fix your problems and then get mad when they stop. Claire thought she had it all figured out. She thought the money was automatic, that being a daughter was enough. She mocked what she assumed was my tiny inheritance, made plans for her half before she even knew what Mum had decided. And when that last page revealed the truth, it wasn't just about the money she wasn't getting. It was about the reality she couldn't deny anymore. Mum loved us both, but love isn't always equal. Sometimes the person who needs less gets more because they've proven what they'll do with it. I think about that a lot, about how Claire spent a year convinced she was getting half of everything, making plans, probably even spending money she didn't have yet based on what she expected, and about how in one moment, one page, all those assumptions crumbled. She'd told Derek they'd open that gym, probably looked at spaces, maybe even put down a deposit somewhere, had the whole future mapped out based on money that was never coming. And then it was gone. Not because of anything I did, but because of choices she made over 20 years. Do I feel guilty? Sometimes. Do I think I did the right thing by accepting Mum's decision? Every single day. The house I bought has this huge oak tree in the backyard. I sit under it sometimes with Biscuit, drinking coffee and reading books from Mum's collection. And I imagine what she'd say if she could see me now. Probably something like, "I told you so," with that little smile she had. The one that said she knew exactly what she was doing. Mom's book collection was extensive. Romance novels, mostly. The kind with dramatic covers and predictable plots. But she loved them. I'm working my way through them one by one, and each one has her notes in the margins. Little comments about the characters, hearts drawn next to romantic scenes, exclamation points where something surprised her. It's like having conversations with her still, finding these little pieces of her personality preserved on pages. Claire is living her life somewhere, probably still angry, possibly still telling people I manipulated a dying woman. And that's okay. That's her story to tell. Mine is different. Mine is about a mother who saw clearly, a daughter who showed up, and an inheritance that was about so much more than money. The last line of Mum's letter said, "It's time to take care of yourself." So that's what I'm doing. Teaching kids who need someone to believe in them. Coming home to a dog who's always happy to see me. Traveling to places I always dreamed about. Living a life that would make Mom proud. Last month, one of my students brought me a drawing. It was a picture of a woman sitting under a tree with a dog, and she'd written "My favorite teacher" at the top. I put it on my fridge next to a photo of Mom. Two reminders of why I do what I do. And if Claire ever wants to have a real conversation, an actual honest discussion about what happened and why, I'm open to it. But it has to be real. No more performances, no more victim mentality, no more rewriting history. Just two sisters sitting down and telling the truth. Until then, I've got a life to live. One that Mum gave me not just through money, but through example. She taught me that boundaries matter, that love isn't the same as enabling, and that sometimes the hardest thing to do is also the right thing. That last page of the will didn't just reveal who got what. It revealed who we really were, who Claire had chosen to be, and who I'd worked to become. And yeah, that revelation was brutal, but it was also necessary. Because sometimes you don't realize how broken something is until someone dies, and the truth can't be hidden anymore. If there's a lesson in all this, it's simple. Show up. Be present. Don't take the people you love for granted, because someday they won't be here, and all you'll have left is what you did when they needed you most. Claire learned that lesson the hard way, in a lawyer's office, from a piece of paper she never expected. And me? I learned that sometimes being the good daughter isn't about being perfect. It's just about being there. That's what Mom saw. That's what she rewarded. And that's what I'll carry with me for the rest of my life. Hit subscribe if you want more real stories like this one.